The following is a Papi Chulo Radio original program. The views and opinions expressed in the commentaries and/or interviews in the following program are solely those of the individuals and are not views of Papi Chulo Radio, its parent, affiliate, or subsidiary companies.
Welcome to Are You Afraid? Hashtag AHStories, a PapiChuloRadio.com original series, Papi Chulo Radio, celebrating a decade of podcasting excellence. Today is Monday, August 2nd, 2021, and I'm your host, Jeffrey Aruz. During this podcast, we'll be having an in-depth discussion on FX on Hulu's American Horror Stories. Please welcome my co-host, Vinny Hatcher.
Hello, hello, hello.
Let's jump into our discussion of Season 1, Episode 4, which was titled The Naughty List and premiered on July 29th, 2021 via FX on Hulu. Here's the official synopsis of the episode. A group of influencers face a reckoning after posting a problematic video online. Yes, sounds like a headline ripped from like Radar Online or something.
Right. All it's missing is Florida Man.
That, yeah. Or the name of a popular influencer. So, let's talk about the theme of this episode. This is American Horror Stories, an anthology. Every week it's new. The first two episodes, it was a two-parter. We had a haunted house. Last week, we had carnivorous, primal, zombie-like people, and this week we have an old-fashioned slasher story set during the holidays. Much like there have been quite a few holiday, especially Christmas horror films in the past, Silent Night, Deadly Night, Krampus, etc. So it is a familiar trope in horror. They did kind of twist it on its head. Sorry, Wyatt. And, they added a very 2021 aspect to it by having these social media influencers as the foils for the serial killer. But slasher stuff, Vinny, what do you think in general of the slasher genre? Just period.
Oh my god, I love it. I mean, I know that makes me sound like a potential slasher myself. I'm totally not, but I grew up watching Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th. You know, the 80s was like prime time slasher. The Dorm That Dripped Blood, Slumber Party Massacre. Like, there's just this like element of over-the-top cheesiness to the slasher genre itself, and then you have the other side where it actually is very noir, very thriller, very captivating. I've watched ones where I'm like on the edge of my seat. So at the same time, I do think that it is very hard to make a successful slasher because there really isn't an in the middle, I think, anymore. It's either you're on the corny side or you're on the really good side. And sometimes corny can be good, but I think you know what I mean when there's like two sides of that spectrum, and I think it's a fine line because it's been done so many times. And when people try to reinvent it, it's always incredibly interesting.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, I enjoy slasher films as well. They can be fun, not to sound as sick and twisted as you just did, but they can be fun. I think the slasher films, much like torture porn, sometimes they will throw in unlikable people because you kind of have fun seeing them get their comeuppance in a slasher film. There are some characters also in slasher films, that they make really that you can empathize with, so that when they get slashed, you feel for it as well. These characters were interesting. Let's talk about our bros. There's the bro house. We have 4 social media influencers living together. Zen, Wyatt, James, and Barry. They're all content creators in the bro house. There actually was a house that social media influencers, one of the Pauls, was in. So
Mm-hmm.
there is a bit of real life relevance with this. There were some shout outs to other content creators in this production as the bros were sort of talking about controversies and that sort of thing. If you've ever seen a social media type of thing, whether it's like a social media influencer's TikTok or Instagram, I mean, props to whomever, had to edit this and put the graphics and that kind of stuff and the music because it was very on point. It was spot on. It was hella creepy. I feel bad for whomever had to watch all that content because their brains probably mush now. But let's talk about the dynamic foursome. Vinny, what did you think of Zen, Wyatt, James, and Barry? Did you have a favorite? Did you hate anyone in particular? Were you excited to see either of them get their comeuppance?
Um, all of them. Like, I know that they tried to make Barry kind of like, I'm the moral compass of the group, but here's my thing. They're all vapid to a certain extent. And the fact that he, you may have a conscience, but the fact that you still went along with what was going on doesn't necessarily make you redeemable in my eyes. Um, but these guys were deliberately not likable. I mean, there's that element of like celebrity, like, oh, I would love to be a celebrity, but I feel like we actually really got to see what happens when being an influencer, being a celebrity, that is what you do because that's all that you are. It becomes every aspect of your identity. And while I did not like any of these characters, I mean, I thought Zen was hot, I won't lie. But, other than the eye candy aspect, like, I hated these characters. And I think that we were meant to, but it also showed us that, like, you get to see like what these people actually go through. Like I would never want to be an influencer because you've got all these ad deals, you've got an image that you always have to have going. You get desperate to find something new. You're constantly trying to reinvent or top what you did last time. So while I didn't like them, I think these characters were 100% spot on and accurate. The shallowness, the arrogance, all the hubris, all of the insensitivity to everyone around them with an undercurrent of like complete and total insecurity and unhappiness. They were living empty lives. And so while I didn't like them and I did enjoy watching each and every one of them get their comeuppance for the assholes that they were very well done because they were very, very accurately portrayed.
Yes, the actors did a really good job portraying unlikable people. And I agree with you about Barry because Barry, it's they like the way that they wrote him and the way that the guys reacted to him. He was supposed to be sort of like the pillar of goodness, I guess, out of the quartet. But at the end of the day, he was still going along to get along. Like it's not like he didn't upload said videos that ended up becoming incredibly controversial and incredibly problematic. He went along to get along because maybe a little bit of peer pressure, maybe a little bit of, the craving, the stardom, the likes, the subscribers and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so I don't give him a pass at all. I didn't feel bad once fate caught up with him.
In the form
Period.
of becoming a Yule log.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yes.
It's funny. I actually, once upon a time, I had my own YouTube channel and I tried to do the whole becoming like a gay influencer and all of that. And this was like in my early 30s. So I really did connect with the fact that like there is always this like, oh, the older that you get, the less appealing you are. And I thought it was really interesting they included that aspect because whether you're a male or a female, I think being a social influencer or being a celebrity these days, it's even the men. It used to be that the women was a stereotype of being, you have to be a Barbie doll, but it's not. It's both of them. There is that aspect of like, not only do you have an image that you have to create, you also have an expiration date. And I did really enjoy the fact that they were doing this because they felt that their milk was about to expire. Oh, wow, in retrospect, that's a really bad metaphor with four guys in a house. Sorry. But you know what I mean? Like, I think it was awesome that they added the undercurrent of like the desperation was coming because they know that if they stop doing this, they'd never done anything else. They don't know what they would do. So again, not likable, but there was depth to these characters, which I didn't think was going to be possible.
That's an interesting point that you made, and I know that they brought it up several times in the episode, but I do kind of question if that is real or if that's just a fear that influencers have as they get old. The only reason I think that is
Yeah.
because as millennials are getting older, we're now in our 30s, and 5+ years we're going to be in our 40s, etc. And if you're a millennial, especially an older millennial, that's getting older and you're used to your favorite content creator, this is coming from someone that does not watch influencers. But I would assume if you like an influencer and you've been following them, throughout your 30s, and as they're getting old and you're getting old, you're still going to have that connection. Like maybe that influencer isn't going to get new people, because I don't know if a 40-year-old influencer would get, a 20-year-old, like a Generation Z, watching them, but you still have your built-in audience that supports you. I wonder if that's something, just in general, if that's something that's going to end up happening with these influencers, because there are many
Yeah.
that are in their 30s and their brand is strong with their contemporaries, because those are the people that are supporting them. So I would think that their contemporaries would follow them as they age, because the contemporaries are aging.
100% it's a fear. I agree with you. I think that's a very fascinating point, and that's what I've always thought, because at the end of the day, if you have the talent, then you're going to gain the followers, is what I've always believed. But if you exist completely off of your image, like your physical image, then I definitely understand the fear. But I think it is a fear regardless of becoming irrelevant and struggling to gain the content. But yeah, no, I completely agree with you there.
It's going to be interesting to see, especially as influencers age and as the viewers
Hmm.
age. Are they going to stick around, or are they just going to stop? Like I feel like if you are a fan, you'll continue watching unless, you just get disinterested in
Right?
whatever it is, which I mean that can happen as well. So we've talked about the four guys. Let's talk about Santa. Danny Trejo making his debut on American Horror Story. Not to jump all the way to the end when I usually ask who do we want to see again. I want to see him again.
Same.
Let me just say that. But what did we think of Danny Trejo as a serial killer that kills mall Santas, and he ends up taking their place? And he clearly has a very twisted view on being Santa. You must always be nice.
Yeah, I absolutely loved him and I want to see him again. I do think that his talent was a little bit wasted because I would have loved to have more of him in this episode. That's the
I
only
agree.
complaint.
This was the shortest episode that we've gotten thus
Yeah.
far. It was 37 minutes. I think it was maybe 2-ish minutes of
Hmm.
credits at the end. So even that, I mean, it was a very short episode. From my understanding, what I read online, because I read an interview with Kevin McHale on TV Line, and he said that Danny Trejo was only brought in for like about 2 days.
Yep.
So they did all the Danny Trejo stuff in 2 days, while, he had much more time with his Bro House cast members. Danny Trejo was only available, I guess, for 2 days, and so they filmed everything in those 2 days, and so that's why we didn't get as much Santa as I wish we would have gotten. Like, I wish we would have gotten maybe a little bit more before he decided
Yeah.
to kill the bros. That would have been kind of nice. I mean, it was neat that we got a lot on the bros, because they did a lot with them, just in doing all of the social media parodying. But if we're gonna have a serial killer, I mean, clearly we're gonna have him when he's serial killing. But it would have been nice to have had like maybe teases before.
Agreed. Like I almost wish that it had been like a full hour split down the middle, because I feel like with the amount of time that we got to spend with that character versus the amount of time that we got to spend with the asshats, I would have liked more balance, because I feel like with the short amount of the episode, they spent too much time on the bros. And I mean, I already hated them within 10 minutes. I would have been ready to see them die, within like 10 minutes of all of that. There were a couple times I literally had to pause the episode because I was like, oh my God, these guys, I don't want to watch them. I don't, because it was working so well. Um, in the 5 or 10 minutes that we got of the murders, it was very effective. The murders happened very, very quickly. My only complaint is I think that the diminished time with him, I think there really wasn't a lot of time to build up that suspense. I felt that it went very, very jerkily from, oh, we're doing this, we're posting it, where life is falling apart. And then he's threatening them and all of a sudden he's just there, and it was done within like 5-ish minutes or so. I didn't hate it, but I would have liked to see more build up and more space between the killings and more time for them to be more afraid. Um, 37 minutes was definitely, I think, too short, and they, due to limited restraints, they didn't give him enough time to really give us the Trejo that I know we could have gotten. But he did an amazing job nonetheless.
Yeah, I agree with you. As sort of like the time started ticking in the episode, when I looked down and I was like, oh, okay, so we're in our final sort of two segments of the episode. Clearly, the murders are going to start to happen, but because it's only four guys, like the murders were going to happen back to back to back. It wouldn't have been realistic to spread them out. Just because, realistically speaking, it would give you a chance to escape, to call for help, to find help, and that sort of thing. So they
Touche.
had to do them back to back. Okay, here's the thing. Full disclosure, I did enjoy the episode. Like, I thought it was fun.
Mm-hmm.
It was jam-packed. I did get, elements of suspense that worked for me, that works in a slasher film, but I wanted more just because it was really enjoyable. And I know that you were kind of like, ugh, with like all the bro stuff. I liked all of that story building in the beginning. Number one, the parodies were spot on. Like, just the ridiculousness of social media influencers doing what they're doing, having to pivot and that sort of stuff, going from, extreme stuff and then getting sort of like the, I forget which one was Logan Paul or Jake Paul, one of the Pauls that did the thing that, everyone started to hate on him. PewDiePie has also released stuff that's been controversial and that sort of stuff. So, taking the real world aspect, bringing that in, having them do something so controversial as filming a guy's suicide, and then them thinking that it was going to give them more subscribers. It had the opposite effect. And so they decided to queer bait, which is a thing.
No homo.
And then they went from that to trying to go back to what they used to do, which is pranking, but then being hella offensive, hella jerk-y about it. It was spot on. Like, they did a fantastic job with it. So I was invested in the characters, even though I didn't like them. But I don't know. I don't know what I would have wanted. I clearly wanted more time in the episode, but I feel like they would have had to have had at least one or two more influencers so that the body count can go up and so that the murders didn't necessarily seem so back to back to back to back.
What I was almost thinking was going to happen was that there was going to be a massacre at their big party.
Oh, okay.
That's what I was almost expecting. Like, kind of getting to see their world start crumbling around them, like, oh, this is the ramifications of what we did. I was actually surprised that there wasn't any. It would make sense because he was only going after the people that were bad. But in my eyes, in like slasher films, sometimes the killer is not discriminatory, and like it would be good enough for him. Oh, you guys are at this party celebrating these jerks. So if you're in my way, I'm going to kill you. I almost was expecting before the core 4 influencers got killed that some of the people at the party might be killed and they start finding the bodies, a la old school slasher recipe. But I do agree with you. Like, I don't get me wrong. Like, all of the build up with the bros, it only made me hate the characters more, which is what they were trying to do. And I just wanted, like you did, that latter half to be a little bit more and have more murdery stuff. But no, I totally like thought it was going to be a massacre. But I will say that I loved the Christmas she shot at the end.
The Christmas tree with the bodies
Yes.
as ornaments. Yeah. That was a good reveal.
It was really, I wasn't expecting that, honestly.
Yeah, props to them. I mean, they're really bringing the gore with American horror stories. I love that. They're also bringing the diversity. I'm loving seeing, I don't think I mentioned this in the previous podcast recording, but I'm loving that they're bringing diverse actors into this world. I mean, not that
Yep.
American Horror Story has been lily white. I mean, there maybe have been a couple seasons that have been, but seeing, a diverse group of actors being brought in just makes it feel a little bit more real, which is nice.
Yeah.
I thought the 4 leads were really good in their asshole-ish, jerky sort of roles. Danny Trejo, as we said, was fantastic. I love the little stinger at the end with him, just sort of showing us he's still out there and he's got his next target. My hope
Mm-hmm.
is that I don't know what they're doing with this as far as this, spin-off series, but if they do end up doing sequels to any of these stories that were introduced in season one, out of all of them, and I know we haven't seen a couple of them yet, but because they haven't been released, but this is one that I would love to see a sequel.
Agreed. I think that would be really interesting. I never knew that I needed Danny Trejo singing Christmas carols really creepily in my life, but now I know.
Satanic-y Christmas carols.
Yes.
Yeah. It's fantastic. So hopefully we do revisit this one again. What's interesting about this season is, since this is the first season, there has been a lot of emphasis on the first season of American Horror Story. We started off with a two-parter with The Murder House. Spoiler alert, but apparently the season finale is going to go back to the Murder House. I wonder if the next season there will be a theme that's relevant
Like
to...
Asylum?
Exactly, like Asylum, or if they just pick a different American Horror Story season.
Have we even left Los Angeles for this season yet?
I don't think so.
I don't
mean,
think we have.
no, because this was clearly Los Angeles, right? Yeah, because they talked
It
about
was at least
moving
California,
to.
yeah.
Yeah.
It looked very much like Los Angeles. I never even thought about that. You're right. I think there is like that, not only like the themes and some of the characters popping back up, but like the location itself, it's almost like insular to Los Angeles, which is where Murder House is. So I would be curious to see if this all does kind of in some way come full circle in the finale.
Yeah, and I wonder if next season maybe they will do season 2 of American Horror Story, and we might have a couple of Asylum centric or Asylum inspired episodes. That might be kind of interesting.
Then they would have to do a season 3 because I want Coven-inspired episodes.
Well, there is that as well. Yes, that might be interesting. I mean, instead of doing an entire season focusing on Coven again, they could have, the premiere, I guess maybe in the finale, being focused on Coven. That would be kind of cool.
Mhm.
Yeah. We'll have to wait and see. Okay. Well, the deaths. Did you have a favorite death?
I did. It was Wyatt getting his head like broke or his neck broken and completely twisted, and how it just kept being reposted on YouTube because it was the first and it broke the seal. It was just the first murder in a slasher is always impactful, and this one was definitely the most impactful because it's the one that let them know like, wait, oh, he's really dead, because with their arrogance, they of course thought it was a prank, so it was that arrogance that led to their demise, because Zinnet ended up, and the chain of dominoes continued to fall. And I will admit the gore on that was extremely well done. I don't think I've ever actually seen a neck twisted like that where the spine actually comes out of the esophagus.
I know. It was really good. That was hella impactful and impressionable. Yeah, I will co-sign. I think his death was the gnarliest. It was the one that was the most grotesque. Although I will say that as far as, a character really getting his comeuppance, when Zen died, that was pretty spectacular. And his seemed to be the most painful because he was getting beat by whatever the hell that was. And then he got holly, I guess that was, or mistletoe, shoved down his throat like a garland of it, which I would assume that was hella painful as well. And then he got electrocuted.
He got his just desserts, and then his was the body that was dismembered for ornaments. I mean, he definitely got what he deserved.
100%. 100%. Yeah, and his head was a star, too. Fantastic. Yes. All right. Was there anything that I missed? And this seems like a fast conversation. It's just the two of us.
I know.
And it was also the shortest one. So I guess it's apropos that our podcast will be the shortest one maybe of the season.
I will admit that there was one moment that really put the nail in the coffin of me viewing Barry in any way as redeemable, and that was the moment where the 5 million subscribers happened.
Oh, yeah. He was really excited.
This whole thing is like, we shouldn't be doing this, but he still went along with it. But he was that person that's like, no, really, I'm a good person. Like generally, if someone tells me like I'm a good person, I'm going to assume they're an asshole until they prove me otherwise. Because if you're a good person, you shouldn't feel the need to tell people, you know? And so that's kind of what he reminded me of. But I kind of was like teetering. But then when that happened and I'm like, dude, you're in the middle of getting killed or about to
Yeah.
be killed. And okay, yeah, you're just as bad as the rest of them. And shout out to him getting nailed in the leg. I felt like that was a correlation to Artie on Glee because he was crawling on the floor.
I did. Yeah, I thought about that as well. Yes. And
Yeah.
apparently, I had forgotten he was on True Blood, but apparently his character on True Blood was also burned up. So,
I forgot about that.
so
Wow.
yeah, so there's a little bit of echoing there because he was set on fire. I do agree with you. Like, and I don't think he understood it, and I think it's just the social media influencer vanity of it all,
hmm
where he was so excited about the followers. He's like, we did it. But it's like, y'all are getting the followers because y'all are dying. So
hmm
it's, yeah. I think the only lackluster death, unfortunately, was poor, oh gosh, what was his name? James? Was his name?
The forgettable one, yeah, because he really didn't have much to do in this episode, I feel like. The guy that got impaled with the arrows.
Yeah, that was the only one that was kind of like,
Yeah,
they could have, I
that was
don't
very
know.
rushed.
Yeah, that one was rushed. I don't know what he could have done differently. Maybe put fireworks on the arrow, and then they would
I
have
almost expect it to explode,
exploded.
yeah.
Yeah, that would have been kind of cool in a very sick and twisted kind of way.
But
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was for what they did. I mean, I tried to think if like each of them had a death that like correlated to the people that they were, and they really didn't. But I do agree out of all of them, Zin did because he got the worst. And he was the one that desperately wanted to be the star the most. So him being the star in the Christmas tree, I did like that correlation.
Yeah. Yeah. And he deserved to suffer because he was just
hmm
horrible. I mean,
Oh
they could
God,
have
yeah.
just done some simple pranks at the mall, but he took it to another level. And because he was doing it, you know, his lackeys, just followed him. Like, because there was that moment when they rewatched and they were like, I don't remember doing that. But when you're in the moment and you have, the main one being such an asshole, you're going to be an asshole as well. Like, they could have just done something normal, but they took it way too far and they clearly fucked with the wrong Santa.
Oh God, yeah. Well, and it kind of goes into the philosophy and psychology of the bystander effect. You know, like the more people that are around when something happens, the less likely people are to feel guilty about not doing anything or actually just don't do anything. And that's, it's an interesting thought when you throw that into the mind of an influencer. It's like because you're doing it on camera and you're doing it for fame, it's like you don't really feel the guilt because yeah, it's shitty, but it's going to get me likes. And that is a really morbidly fascinating concept. Like there is an element of people are so desensitized to the emotions and feelings of the people around them in order to monetize that and get success off of that. And it's really frightening. So it added another element of horror to me that there really are, because I know there are people out there who would film that in real life. Like they would go sit and watch and wait for somebody to jump off of a bridge because I've been on YouTube and I've seen some of the stuff that people will record and it's just it's disturbing.
Yes, I agree with you on that. So was there anything that I missed? A tiny little moment?
I don't think so. I think we covered all the important parts because it was a very short episode.
Yes, it was. So now it's time for the MVP, the most valuable player. State which character impressed you throughout the episode and why. Once a character has been chosen, they cannot be selected again, so choose wisely. I feel like you're going to go with the obvious choice, which is the right choice. Maybe. We'll see. Vinny, who's your MVP?
I'm almost tempted to be nice again and let you go first. But I will be selfish. I am going to pick Santa, Danny Trejo. I mean, I could find something not redeemable, but worth picking out of the characters. But no, you know what? Actually, I'm going to rescind that. I am going to go with Zin because thinking about it, he resonated with me in such a negative way. And I think that Zin was the driving force behind everything that happened in this aspect. He was the figurehead. He was the leader. He had this gaggle of boys that he was able to manipulate and convince into doing whatever he wanted. And he wasn't a mastermind. He wasn't smart. he was so unlikable. He was so shallow. He was literally what I would view as an evil character that I felt so strongly disgusted by him. I am going to choose him as my MVP because when I compare how I felt about him versus how I compared to how I feel about Danny Trejo's performance, like I love Danny Trejo and I liked his performance, but the thing that I would probably talk about the most coming away from this episode is how much of an asshole and how deserving he was of what he got, Zin was. So I will pick him for my MVP actually.
Good choice. Technically, you had two MVPs, but I will say this because since you already sort of started giving the love to Danny Trejo, I'll just continue it. I'll say
Okay.
that he was fantastic. We'll give him sort of an honorary MVP because he just brought the proper menace to this Santa serial killer. It's the menace that we needed to make, the killings incredibly believable, to make the comeuppance of these four social media influencers incredibly believable. So he brought it, and hopefully we get to see more of him. But I'm going to also give it to Wyatt. And the reason I'm going to give it to Wyatt is because I've seen Charles Melton in a couple of other stuff, and I didn't know that he could be funny. And he brought
Oh
the
yeah.
comedy in this for me. I thought that his just stupidity. I thank the heavens he did not. Speaking of Wyatt in particular, he did not, go to med school because I
Oh
don't
my
know how
God,
good of a
right?
doctor he would have been. But the comedy that he brought was really good. I found him to be just incredibly spectacular with that dim-witted comedy. It worked for me, and his death was also pretty awesome. Just visually, it was visually impressive. It worked. So now it's time to rate the episode. How would you rate this episode on a scale of 1 to 10 Santa hats? The point system is allowed, and if you found the episode exceptional, deserving of more than a 10, you may grant it the coveted golden Santa hat. Vinny?
I'm gonna give it a solid 8.5. I There was a lot that I liked. I really enjoyed the ride, but like we kind of talked about, I would have liked to see more action on the Santa end. I would have liked to see more going on in that area, more time, maybe more torture. I know that's horrible to say, but these guys were deliberately built up to be nasty, disgusting, and their comeuppance was very fast and very quick. So I would have liked the episode to have been longer, but for what we got, it was very quality. It was really well done. The way the characters were portrayed, what they did, the effects of me. I really felt like I was watching YouTube for a majority of the beginning of the episode. They did a really great job of like, making it very TikTok-y, as you said, very realistic. So for what we got in the 37 minutes, it was really well done. There were just a couple of things that are keeping me from giving it a 10, so 8.5 for me.
All right. I think coming into this, I was going to give it an 8, but after hearing you give it an 8.5 and all of the reasons to justify it, I'll bump it up to an 8.5 as well. It is a well-done episode. It was very suspenseful, even though, everything was kind of rushed at the end because there was only four people that Bad Santa had to kill. But it was still well done. I enjoyed what we got. I thought all the actors did a really good job. Sometimes playing douchey roles, the other one playing a hardcore serial killer role, but everybody played their parts perfectly. Yeah, I just wish we got more. 35 minutes, without the end credits. It's not a lot. Yeah, maybe added a couple more influencers or something. They could have, racked up the body count. That might have been something too.
Cameos would have been awesome. Like having actual like real life ones come in for cameos to add up the body count would have been cool.
Very true. Very true. Yeah. So I will co-sign with an 8.5. Something that we didn't discuss that I want to at least chat about really quick before we wrap everything up. The opening credits. So we got the same music. It was lightened up a little bit for the holidays. And the imagery was different. As I said, as I hoped when we did the first one, the first one that we got was very rubber woman, man oriented. Last
Rubbery.
week, it was very rubber, yes. Last week, we had one that was very drive-in associated. I mean, clearly, we were going to a drive-in. And this one was holiday, TikTok, YouTube-y, Also kind of creepy. It got more sinister. The imagery got more sinister as the theme progressed. I don't know any BTS about it, so I don't know if they just plucked real stuff or if that was original stuff or if they asked, popular TikTokers and YouTubers to create stuff. I don't know, but it was still very neat. So I just wanted to give props to whomever edited it together and actually
Completely agree.
made it happen. It was very appropriate for the episode, especially because the opening was really what you said, a direct riff on YouTube and TikTok. So having all of that imagery and then leading into this opening theme was perfect. So my final question is, do we want to see any of these actors again? I know we want to see Danny Trejo as Santa again. I would love to see Danny Trejo, period, again. I thought the 4 characters were fine. Some of them had a little bit more to do than others, but they could come back. Clearly not the same
I agree.
characters.
They did a really great job, like I said, of playing the people that they were written to play. They were very effective. They're obviously very talented actors. I would love to see them play something different since, hopefully, obviously, these characters couldn't come back to life. But it is American Horror Story, so you never know. But, going back to Zin, how much he made me feel like he deserved what he got. The actor did an amazing job, and all of them played these vapid, insecure, characters very, very powerfully. So I would love to see what their acting chops could do in another, maybe a more sinister role or another more dramatic or genuine role. I think they would bring a lot to the table.
100%. A shout out to the Bro House in another episode might be kind of neat just to sort of tie some of these things together, much like last week we were mentioning maybe Rabbit Rabbit can be mentioned, just a little reference in a future episode that would kind of help tie things together and make it all seem like it's a part of the AHS universe, in the mothership and that sort of thing. That would be kind of cool. A quick little fun fact for those out there that maybe didn't know, Charles Melton did appear on the mothership. He had the small role of Mr. Wu way back in the hotel season.
Yeah, I will tell you I'm incredibly excited for next week's.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Because we got Billie Lourd coming back.
We do. We have an AHS alum making her debut on the spinoff. So on that note, join us next time for a brand new installment of Are You Afraid? #AHStories. Here's our answer to remind you on how you can interact with us.
Follow Poppy Chulo Radio on social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at Poppy Chulo Radio. Do you have any questions, suggestions, comments, or concerns? Email us via contact@poppychuloradio.com. Are you interested in joining the Poppy Chulo Radio team as an on-air personality? Email talent@poppychuloradio.com. Binge listen to your favorite Poppy Chulo Radio programs by visiting poppychuloradio.com/archives. You can also download tonight's broadcast and the rest of the series through Apple Podcasts and Google Play. Just search for Are You Afraid? AHStories and subscribe.
Thanks, announcer. My co-host, please wish the listeners a good night.
Have a good night, bros.
Yes. It's a shame we haven't even said ho 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 throughout this whole damn thing. Well, I guess I just
Ho ho, bro.
Ho ho, bro, yes.
Or is it ho ho, no homo?
Yes. Thanks for tuning in. Download new episodes of Are You Afraid? #AHStories every Tuesday via Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and the Poppy Chulo Radio archives. Good night.